Good weekend. There's not a whole lot of craziness going on, but there are some very specific and targeted, let's say, things that are going on that I want to make sure everybody is aware of. A couple of them that are going to take us into the future, and we'll want to know how it is that we're supposed to work with this energy over the next several weeks in the case of the first one, and several months clear until the end of the year at least with the other one. So let's dig in and see what's going on. Hello, Debbie Tibbetts Tumiel. So I see you out there, and I see several people still out there, maybe just waiting. I never know if there's a lag going on with Facebook or with the Facebook Live, because it seems like I see people out there, but then they're not checking in. So I'm not sure if they're really there or if it's just a figment of my imagination, which it very well could be. Oh, good morning, Mimi. It's good to see you this morning. And so anyway, if you're out there and you're just listening, welcome, and let's go into what is happening. So here we are today. It's Friday, FriYAY. Hello, Vicki. And we are looking forward to a weekend that really, in the grand scheme of things, there are some changes going on with the weekend, but it's not necessarily a bad weekend. Energetically, we have the moon in Capricorn today. So and the moon doesn't turn void, of course, until later in the day. So we have all day today to sort of clean off our desks, get all the odds and ends done, finish projects that, where we're this close to the end. We might as well take our time today and finish them so that literally we go into the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, with our desks cleared off. I'm going to attempt today to do this, right? Usually I go into the weekend and I'm sitting here going, oh my gosh, I've got to write the energy for the next week. And lately, the weekends have been filled with me doing that and the newsletter. I just couldn't seem to organize my time around getting it done earlier in the week and then just pressing the button that says, oh yeah, send that on Sunday. Instead, I'm sitting there at the last minute still working on it. So today I'm going to try to break that pattern and send it out, get it set up and ready to go today so I don't have to do it this weekend, particularly because it's going to be a beautiful weekend here where I live. So I want to spend time outdoors. I want to be out and playing in the garden, maybe riding my bike, going to see my grandson's lacrosse game, things other than sitting down indoors writing. Got it? So that's the kind of weekend we have today. If you do your due diligence and you get all the work done, you get your, desk cleared off, or you get things put away, things that have been sort of hanging around all week, get them done. Then you're clear in the weekend to go out and have some good times. So this morning, I always look at the sky. Well, I don't always look at the sky, but this morning I noticed the moon, and it was just right outside my bedroom window here. And of course it's, moving towards new. So it's getting smaller and smaller every day. And this morning I looked out and I went, wow, I know that's not Jupiter sitting next to the moon. It must be Saturn, because I knew that the moon had been in Capricorn and yesterday it had a conjunction with Saturn. So that has to be Saturn. So I looked out, definitely it was Saturn. It was really gorgeous. Saturn looks sort of like a golden, it kind of shifts between golden light and white light when you're looking at it in the sky. And then I was able to realize that if the moon is that close to Saturn, it is also in alignment with Pluto, because today the moon conjuncts Pluto. Now, we can't see Pluto with our bare eyes, right? We have to be able to see that through a telescope, a pretty powerful telescope, because Pluto is way in the heck out there. But if you close your eyes and just visualize, you could see how the moon and the little dwarf planet Pluto would be sitting in a conjunction. And that was kind of an aha for me this morning too, because even if we can't see the body of the planet that's out there in a conjunction with the moon, we know it's there. And we can tap into that energy. So this morning, fairly early, the moon will conjunct Pluto, and then it moves on to trine Mars, and then to square Uranus. Now, if I unpack that a bit for you, A conjunction to Pluto with the moon makes this for a rather emotionally evocative sort of morning. And it may even last a little bit through the day. There could be a trigger. I'm going to be sharing something with you this morning that about the planet Neptune as it relates to this weekend. And I was in a fine, joyful mood. And I read this thing that I'm going to read to you, the card for the moon or the Neptune at gate 22. And it brought me right back down into kind of not a funk, but just a powerful emotional wave traveled through me as I read this. And I'm assuming it's probably going to be the same for you all as well. But such is the case with the moon in a conjunction to Pluto, right? It evokes these deep or maybe even primal energies within us. And it's usually emotional. There's an emotional thing there. Now, I got to tell you, it's not always fun to trigger an emotion because they're very powerful. And sometimes it can take you into sadness. Sometimes it can elevate you up to joy as well. But the point is that if you have any kind of charge on something, and when I read this to you, you may have a charge on this. And if you have a charge on it, there's still something there for you to work through. And that is what the moon conjunct Pluto allows us to do, to access that deeper, dark recess within our minds, within our subconscious, within our bodies, of reservoirs of fear or reservoirs of sadness or grief or excitement that we haven't been really clear with, right? There's a word I'm going to throw out to you today. Remember the other day we were doing a lot of the trans words? I'm going to give you another trans word today, and that's transparency. And that's a huge one. It's huge in our outer world if you take a look at it, and it's huge going on within each one of us, especially moving forward after today. So I see a lot of people checking in here. Good morning, Linda. Dennis, it's great to see you. I don't know why you're not seeing anything. I can see, oh, she sees me now. Okay, good. Because I think I see me. Who knows? Sometimes I'm just off in another dimension. Good morning to Debbie Hedden. Good morning, Willa and Vanita and Patricia Woods. Good morning, Rebecca, a different Rebecca. Good morning, a different Rebecca. And good morning, regular Rebecca. Welcome to both of you ladies. And anyone else that's out there, I'm really glad to have you join me this morning. And Yuri, good to see you too. Nice. Happy Friday to you too, Cheryl. And wow, people have some time this morning to join me live. I love it. So if you're just joining me now, or if you're new to the Meta Cafe, my name is Janet Hickox. I am an astrologer, a human design consultant, and I am also an impending Gene Keys ambassador. I just have one more little step I have to take to complete my ambassadorship. And that is what I share here in the morning with Monday through Friday, Thursday in the afternoon, and the other days in the morning. I'm sharing astrology with everybody, or human design, Gene Keys, as a way to allow you to learn to know yourself better. And I do that in terms that are fairly general. And because of that, I offer readings and I offer coaching. And you can see those things on my website, which is www.living-astrology.com. All right. And by the way, if you're new and you've not been here before, I also offer free human design charts or free natal charts on my website. That's like the fun thing for me to do, is to be able to share your chart with you. So you can hit me up there and see everything else that I have to offer. All right. So any questions that anybody has about today? I mean, basically, keyword today, get to work, finish things up, do your due diligence, stay on course, right? Don't go crazy, don't get way, funky and do weird things, because funk comes tomorrow. One last thing about today, the moon turns void, of course, at 5:06 p.m. West Coast time. So it'll be 8:06 for you all on the East Coast. And is only void until 6:47 p.m. my time, so that would be 9:47 for you all on the East Coast. And then it moves out of the sign of Capricorn and sets us up for an Aquarian weekend. So what does that mean? So the moon in Aquarius, it feels completely different from the moon in Capricorn, although Saturn, who is the ruler of Capricorn, also has a hand in the rulership of Aquarius, interestingly enough. But for us in the modern day, we really think of Uranus as the ruler of Aquarian energy. So we may have, sort of these things going on within us where we're looking at the quirky, we're looking at the eccentric and the innovative on one hand, but then we also have to express the practical or the pragmatic about whatever it is that we are thinking about doing in terms of innovation or, inventing something or doing things differently. So when the moon is in Aquarius, we can go off on tangents, right? Suddenly we can decide that we're going to go off out into the outer world and we're going to do something new. There can be some shifts going on in our lives. We're kind of quirky, nutty, maybe marching to the beat of our own drummers. But it can also be a time, and this is great when it falls on the weekend, for us to hang out with our friends, for us to go do things in groups. For example, maybe it's a great weekend to go out and see if there are any fairs going on, art fairs or psychic fairs or any kind of, I know there's a lot of lawn and garden things going on now. Get out about with other people because it's a great time for networking or even coming together for a cause, right? So get out, get around new people, expand your horizons a bit. This is also a time for genius breakthroughs. So I have a funny story about a moon in Aquarius thing that happened to me. This was, good gosh, this was probably in 2003. No, I'm guessing maybe 2003, 2004, maybe even earlier than this. One day, I lived in a town called Cedar-Woolley, and every year in Cedar-Woolley in the summertime, right around the 4th of July, they have Logger Rodeo. And they used to have this big community picnic that we would all go to. We'd take our kids and they would, barbecue hamburgers and hot dogs and, community picnic idea, right? And what I was sitting with my best friend at the time. We were just sitting along the wood around the playground. Our kids were all playing behind us. We were both just sitting there. And I remember I was sitting like this and I was just observing life, all going on around me. And my friend got up and she said, I need to use the restroom. So she leaves. No lie. The moment she left, I felt like a lightning bolt hit me right smack dead center of my head with the most brilliant idea that I thought had ever occurred on the planet. And I was in such a state that I had my purse with me. All I could find, you remember ATMs, how they used to have little receipts and on the back it was blank? I had an ATM receipt. That was the only thing I had to write down my brilliant idea, which turned out to be Mystic Moon, which was a metaphysical bookstore that was in the little town of Cedar-Woolley, Redneck City. Redneck Central, right? That's Cedar-Woolley. And I put this metaphysical bookstore in the middle of Redneck Central. And it turned out to be one of the best experiences of my life. And later, in checking back what was happening at that time, the moon was in Aquarius. So while I'm not saying that every one of you are going to end up with brilliant aha ideas, the potential exists. And if so, be smart, carry around a notepad, maybe, now we have cell phones that are, in 2002 or 3 when this happened, we didn't have our, handy dandy smartphones. We had phones, but not necessarily smartphones where we could record our brilliant ideas and act on them later. Instead, like I said, I kept that little piece of paper forever because it really was like everything that I could think of for that business that eventually did happen was written on that piece of paper. It was extraordinary. So that's the kind of weekend we have, people. Extraordinary quirkiness, ideas. Now, you've got to watch out for a couple of things, though, when the moon is in Aquarius, and that is that our heads might be in the clouds, right? We may be, off into dreamland or in, thinking up futuristic ideas, or we get so involved in the dream that we lose sight of what's real and what's grounded here right in front of us. And we do still have to watch out for a little bit of stubbornness, rigidness given to Saturn being one of the rulers of the moon in Aquarius. And it may be harder for us at times to relate to people one-on-one when the moon is Aquarius, because we're used to being in Aquarius, it's the group energy. So group energy. So moon in Aquarius on Saturday, and actually this evening into Saturday and all day on Sunday. So we have a weekend of wonderment. And that's my story, and I'm going to stick with it. Is Neptune going to influence a cloudy mind? There is a Neptune connection. Thank you for bringing that up. And it is distinctly possible, right? We have Mercury freshly into forward motion in the sign of Pisces, Neptune's realm. We have Neptune in its own home domicile of Pisces. We have Venus now in Pisces. So we have a little bit of more oomph to the more dreamy, cloudy, if you will, side of things. So I might add, this is probably not the best weekend to make big decisions, but it is the great time to dream the big dream and have your pieces of paper or your notes, your voice recorder with you as you pencil out the potential, right? We're only talking potential. We're talking about, what does the future look like from here? What does it look like? It isn't that you're going to take steps to do it. It isn't the time to do that, perhaps, but it is the time to dream the dream. Yuri, I hope that answers your question for you. Good morning, Colleen. Good morning, Camille. Thank you, sweetie. Good morning, Diana. And great to have all of you with us this morning. Alex, good morning. And Yuri, thank you. That's awesome. So Neptune cloudiness, yes, but I've got to take some time now. I'm going to bring the energy back in for a moment, because in human design, when the outer planets change gates, it is like when a larger outer planet changes signs, right? In astrology, they change signs. In human design, they change gates. It focuses our energy into a new place. It focuses our energy on something new. And on this particular case, it's going to focus us into something rather deep. And it is going to be Neptune that does this for us. And I think I alluded to the fact when we were doing the astrology for 2019, that Saturn and Neptune were going to be the ones the planets to watch for this year. And it was interesting because many times Saturn is going to be interacting with Neptune in a very positive, spiritually uplifting, forward moving toward more spiritual concepts, more metaphysical concepts, more spiritually or esoteric knowledge coming to us. And here is one of the biggest harbingers of that, and it is Neptune moving into gate 22 in your human design. Now, of course, I didn't print up a chart this morning, but I'm guaranteeing I have one here somewhere. Here we go. This was from the other day when we were all pretending to be reflectors. So the gate 22 is right here. Oh, on that day, it was, what was defining it on that day? 22, weird. Was Mercury. Now that Mercury's moved on, Neptune is now taking up residence right here at gate 22, which is on the solar plexus, so the center for your emotional self, right? So the gate 22 moves up to meet the throat with gate 12. So if you have gate 12, which I do, now we're going to have Neptune connecting that entire channel in your chart. In my chart, it's going to be all connected. Now, the gate 22 is one of the gates that Richard Rudd in the Gene Keys speaks of as one of those momentous gates. It is a gate that is a point of shift, a point of consciousness raising, let's call it, because I don't want to use the word evolution. The word I want to use is involution, right? This is where we are going to begin to embody the divine more and more. Evolution is more outward expression of the divine, but the involution, as seen through gate 22, where Neptune will now take up residence for a very long time, is the place where we embody divine, the divine within us. So it is the divine and the body coming together. All right. Now, this is a tricky gate because it's a moody gate, because it's on the emotional center. At times, this is a gate that is very gracious and loving and outwardly kind and generous. And at other times, it is not, right? So this is all based on mood. If you are in a mood, also, you've got to understand that moods shift and flow, right? We have an emotional wave, and that emotional wave is often at the high or any place in between the very low, and then it comes back up again. Sometimes it's faster, right? More undulating. In this particular gate, it's a pretty profound kind of mood, as in it has its very high. This is where we can feel sort of bipolar some days, high, and then later in the lows. I experienced that this morning a bit, where I was on this high as I'm getting ready, and then I read something in this card that caused me to shift for a moment. It didn't last very long, but it did cause me to have some profound inner things going on. So I'm going to take the time this morning to read this to you. And I know sometimes reading something can get kind of boring, but it is worth it. Now, what I'm going to read to you is coming from the Wisdom Keeper's Inner Guidebook that we learned about from Rosie Aronson last week, right? And it goes along with the card that represents 22, which is the card of graciousness. It is the gate of grace in human design. In your gene keys, it is the lowest expression of dishonor. It moves up to graciousness in the gift. And at the highest expression, it is grace. Now, over the next few weeks, I'm sure we will get to deep conversations about what is graciousness and what does it mean to have grace? And what does it mean, what does dishonor mean as a shadow? I mean, there are plenty of opportunities for discussion over this, but I just want to set the stage here for everyone, okay? So if you go down into a deeper emotional place while I'm talking about this or reading this to you, it is okay. If it doesn't affect you at all, that's okay too. If you end up resonating with this energy, understand that this is a process, right, of you connecting with something very deep and powerful within you. If you have a reaction to it, it is likely something that you are also struggling with, and it's time to bring it up and release it. Give it to God, right? All right, so here we go. By the way, in Rosie's wisdom book here, it's always a story and then a gift and then questions for contemplation. So I may try to go through all of that with us today. Please ask questions if you have them. Here we go. The wisdom story. I was born into a well-respected family that cared a great deal about its reputation. But beneath the veneer, there was terrible dysfunction. When my body began to change into a beautiful young woman's body, an admired family member abused me sexually. I felt too afraid and ashamed to tell anyone what was happening. Instead, I tried desperately not to feel. Whenever a forbidden feeling arose in my heart, I'd throw myself on the floor and pray that God would make me good and pious. Because I showed such unusual religious fervor for a young girl, I was sent to a secluded monastery to live a modest life of study and prayer. Relieved to be in a safe place, I gladly renounced all material things, took a vow of celibacy, and dedicated my life to selflessness. To all at the monastery, I was a proper, calm, and balanced woman and a keen listener. But on the inside, I often seethed with inappropriate feelings that I couldn't bear to accept, much less express. I distrusted my pain, rejected my beauty, hated my needs, and judged my desires. I couldn't say no to requests for support even when I was sick. I felt disgust at even the tiniest bit of passion, anger, or sexual feelings within me. One day, during a prayer group, a sister bravely shared about an experience of having been raped as a child. In the midst of her sharing, my body was hit by a tidal wave of memories, humiliation, and shame. Instead of looking up to God and praying for the feelings to go away, I buried my head in my hands and sobbed. For the first time in my life, I shared about what had happened to me. I hid nothing from anyone, not even myself. As the pain, shame, and loneliness of my past erupted out of my throat, I felt a kind of light and love descend into my chest, one I'd never experienced in all of my days of prayer. And when I opened my eyes, I was met with such love, compassion, and respect that it felt like the entire cosmos was singing. Now I regard myself as deeply as I regard others. I no longer need to hide my beauty, dishonor my boundaries, or withhold my feelings to engage graciously with the world. My gift to you. I have come to tell you that there is nothing in you that is unworthy of love or of reverence. The very things you think you should hide or get rid of are exactly what need to be seen, felt, and expressed. Push nothing away. Transparency is the ultimate path towards grace. Be unwaveringly gracious towards every part of yourself, every feeling, every painful experience. By honoring all that is within you, you will experience the poetry and music and even the most agonizing moments. You will naturally find yourself being gracious towards others, touching their emotions, their hearts and souls with the milk of human kindness, and they will bloom in your presence. At your core, you are a gloriously unique manifestation of grace. Honor your suffering, and you will discover your gift to the world. Now, questions for contemplation. And I'll do what I did the other day with the questions for contemplation. I'll post them in the Living Astrology Facebook page so that you can copy them down, because I don't want to take time right now to write them all. But here are the questions. Are there ways that you dishonor yourself or others? On the outside, do you appear kind, balanced, and a good listener? But inside, do you feel angry, resentful, or full of forbidden desire? Have you ever held so much inside you that you exploded? What were the consequences to yourself and those around you? Think of a part of you, a feeling or experience that you reject as bad or inappropriate. How can you embrace it? And finally, how can you bring more graciousness into your life? I don't know about you guys, but that one sucker punched me today. Not because, I think there probably isn't a woman alive that hasn't suffered some kind of, and even men, suffered some form of humiliation sexually or being sexually abused or molested. I mean, the hashtag Me Too movement, and its force showed us how powerful that is. But it's not so much that it is or that it has happened. It's how you viewed yourself in response to what has happened. And it may not just be a sexual issue. It could be any issue where you've felt shamed or you've, felt anger, or when you've been marginalized in some way. So this particular Gene Key 22, and if you have the Gene Keys book by Richard Rudd, it is a great time to take a look at the Gene Key 22, because it is like the 55. Right now it's extraordinary because we have Venus sitting at gate 55, the gate of evolution, and now we have Neptune sitting at gate 22, the gate of involution. Do you think things are changing on this planet right now? They are, right? You can't have the power of some planetary influences sitting at gates that are very powerful in adopting the new, in adopting change, transmutation, transformation, without being affected. And what I'm trying to say here is, and I'm going to show you the card again, because look at the love and the softness that comes from this card. I mean, Rosie nailed it here. Nailed it. Nailed it. It's a beautiful woman. It doesn't matter if it's a woman or a man. There's beauty, softness, compassion, love. Look at the third eye, heart, right? Love being sent out, telescoped out to the world. And also, that's shining out from the inner love that this person has indeed, right? So let the involution begin, right? This is really the hallmark, since Neptune in human design and even in astrology represents our spiritual connections. Literally, it's our spiritual work that Neptune represents when it's in human design. So wherever your Neptune sits, it's the part that you're here to play, the work that you're here to do, the job that you signed up for. You know how when we used to go to camp, we'd sign up for, work parties like dishes or, sweeping the cabins or cleaning the bathrooms, right? We'd sign up and then we'd move from one to the other. So your assignment that you chose is represented in your natal position of Neptune in your human design. Right now, globally, we are being affected by the involution of the move from dishonor to graciousness to grace. And like I said, that's a deep subject. We could talk for hours just about that. But in the meantime, it is about honoring all that is within you. It is recognition that what is in you, what is animating you, is your divine self. And the divine self is perfect. There isn't anything wrong there. And if that's the case, then there isn't any feeling you've had, any experience you've had, any suffering that you've gone through that is inherently bad. It was all to your benefit in some way, shape, or form. I know sometimes that's a bitter pill to swallow, particularly if you've suffered greatly at the hands of someone else, or witnessed a family member suffering greatly at the hands of another person. But the truth is that we are all divine beings, and we've lost our way. This particular transit will help us find our way as we begin to really embody the nature of spirit or God, whatever you want to call it, God, goddess, all that is, right? You are all that is. All right, let's see what people think about that. Would you mind speaking about the channel 2212? Thank you. Yes. Now, the channel 2212, it's an interesting channel because it is here, it's the channel of openness. And it is what in my chart, the channel, the gate 12, that makes me want to teach, right? It's the educator part of me. And it is the part of me that holds higher hopes for more in the world. And I'm trying to be very careful here in how I say this, because it's not that people who don't have this defined in their chart aren't open. It's a channel that provokes us to evolve higher. It hopes to evolve us toward the expression, the manifestation, the communication of grace and graciousness, charm, of love, of being able to speak to that divine nature within each one of us. But it's emotional energy. It's emotional because gate 22 sits on the emotion center. And that means at times it's on, and at other times it's not. And if you're trying to speak to a crowd or people when that particular energy is in its low part, then you have to be very careful in what you say, because there's such power here in the emotions to make it directly up to the throat to be expressed. Does that make sense, Rebecca? I hope that answers your question. And we can talk more about that too. I think it might be a good webinar to have to talk about the gate 22 deeper and its connection to 12, because for the time being anyway, we have gate 22 being affected by Neptune. Camille Love says, wow, good morning, April. Good to see you out there. Lynn, good morning. She says she's just joining us. Yuri, so it's more like connection to the higher spiritual heavenly energy. Yes, exactly. It's like what's coming in to you meets up with what's already here with you. And there's this sudden recognition that you are so much more than you believed you were. That in the story that I just read to you, right? She's feeling this ugliness, this, repressing everything that, she feels isn't correct for her, or is shameful, or makes her angry. And in the end, what she realizes is that all of that is all a part of who she is. And there's nothing wrong with any of those emotions, of any of those feelings. And if you, like I was triggered, I was triggered big time when I read that the first time. The second time, it wasn't so much of a trigger as a sort of a reckoning of where I saw that within me and how I can work through that myself. I fully intend on taking those questions for contemplation and working through them, right? Because I resonate with that happy, joyful, open expression on the outside, while feeling inside not that way sometimes, right? Where it's anger, where it's just fury. There's times I felt furious. There are times inside while I see myself outside smiling, right? And then, the more you squelch down those feelings that we term not good, the more damage is being done to you on a physical level, an emotional level, and I would argue even on a spiritual level, right? You've got to be able to be all of those things, embodying them. Natasha, I loved the doorway that Mystic Moon gave and still gives in that you those adventures I'm still on. It was a huge doorway. It was so much fun. Um, yes. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Any other questions? Rebecca says, yes, thank you so much. There's so much more I could say about it too, Rebecca. Uh, it's just it's in a pretty amazing channel. All the channels are. All the channels are. Diana says, did the card represent a saint? No, not necessarily, Diana. I don't know, maybe you missed the day that Rosie Aronson was on with us, but she literally channeled these faces. She would just start drawing and then they would emerge onto a page. So they're not meant to be anybody. There are some I recognized, that maybe they were representations of as she's drawing, maybe that person, she was tapped into that kind of consciousness represented by that person. But no, these are not meant to be any particular people. But there's something, this one reminds me of Alma, maybe. I don't know. The hugging saint. What is she called? The hugging saint? I don't know. Anyway. But this is worthy of our time. This is worthy of our contemplation as we move into the weekend, not to make it a serious work either. I don't know. I find this kind of processing kind of fun, but others, may find this difficult, especially if you've been squelching down or holding in, holding tightly to anger, resentment, or guilt, or shame, or any, humiliation, any of those angry sort of energies, fearful sort of energies. If you've been holding them so tight, and then you go into contemplation, that's going to come up. Right? It's going to come up and then it's going to get expressed in some way. So have a journal. I could do this sitting down here on the beach. The beach would be a great place to do this, right? If you're near one, or a body of water, because, letting the water take on that emotion and wash it away for you. So lots of fun stuff here. Lynn Goldberg said only Robin Williams asked to be included. That's right. She did tell us that. There is a card. I don't remember what card number it was. That is the depiction of Robin Williams. So there you have that stuff. So Sunday, after all of this, we were talking about, this is all on Saturday. Now, the bridge between Saturday and Sunday, Mars, the planet of action, the part of the planet that represents our forward momentum, moves out of Taurus and into Gemini. Hallelujah. While Mars has been in Taurus, things have been slow, right? It's been more like, plodding energy, plodding energy, where it's very slow. After having come out of Aries, when Mars was in Aries, it was like go, go, go. Everything was excitement and potential. It slowed down tremendously while the planet, Mars was in Taurus. And now it is going to ramp back up, as now it moves into an air sign, and a sign of communication, of thinking, of networking, and it is going to speed up our communication. And also, it is going to add a tinge of confrontation to things out there in the world, because Mars also rules the emotions of anger, impatience in the negative side, right? The more positive would be that we have patience and that we fortitude and we are assertive and we put forth one foot in front of the other and we go where we need to go. Now things are just going to speed up a bit. There's a time here then for us to share ideas, to network, to get out and meet new people, to produce new projects. Maybe not this weekend, right? This is more of a contemplative, but also sort of, thinking weekend. But eventually, through the next 6 weeks while Mars is in Gemini, we can see that we might be able to burst forth with new ideas. We may be able to come together with new people in new ways to get our, I know it's sudden for me, but in the last week, I was invited 2 times to 2 different summits. Now, summits, as you know, are like a group of people that come together and they're sharing their information, and other people in the world can tap into that. They get to watch your videos or, your interaction with them. And I've always seen summits, right? I've participated in summits. I've never been invited to one. This week, I've been invited to 2 of them. Such is the power of a planet getting ready to change signs. Very visible evidence of the energy of Mars in Gemini. and are opening up to being able to communicate our messages in maybe new ways, or openings to communicate your message where before it wasn't available. So the one thing we need to watch over the next few weeks, though, is the tendency to scatter energy and to lose focus. For so many juicy, wonderful, tantalizing things to come to you, and you wanting to play with all of them, that you lose focus and you scatter your energy. So that's the main thing, the dynamic that you're going to want to watch for, right? Is not saying yes to everything. I don't want you saying no to everything either, but it is going to be a time where you're going to want to be able to embrace that juiciness that life brings you. And I want you to be able to do that too, but you have to do it in a way that is correct for you. And here we get to go back to the talk about your type, your strategy, and your authority, right? If you don't know what type you are, and you don't know then what your authority is or your strategy, go to the website living-astrology.com and request your free human design chart and find out how it is that you're designed to work with the world. Because there are 5 types, and each type has a way in which a strategy through which it engages in the world, and an authority that helps them determine what is correct for them as opposed to what is not correct for them, right? So, for example, if you're a generator type, you are here to wait to respond to what shows up in your outer world, not taking action based on what comes up here inside of you as an idea or an inspiration. It's great to have ideas and inspiration. If you're a generator, or a manifesting generator also has to watch out for this. But you don't take action from that idea or inspiration. You wait until something in your outer world causes a resonance with that idea. Then you go to your authority, which may be emotional. If you are an emotionally defined generator, you are responding to what shows up in your outer world, and you are waiting through your emotional self, always asking the question, is this correct for me? Does this make me feel good? Does this make me happy? Is this true for me? Before you make a decision, you're waiting for time. Time is your ally. And I could go into all of the types and strategies. That wasn't really my purpose here today, but it is an opening for you to find out which is the correct way for you to embrace and engage with this energy that is going to be pretty powerful, right? Mars is a force to be reckoned with. He is force, right? He is energy. He's like a pure ball of energy. He is warrior energy. What do you want to be a warrior of, right? Is it a warrior of light? A warrior of love? What is it, right? Okay. So any questions about Mars in Gemini? Yuri, what book can you recommend to read more and understand this all? Are you speaking about human design, sweetie? Or what? If you're thinking about human design and learning more about human design, the book that I first learned from was Understanding Human Design. I can't get to it, by Karen Curry. Understanding Human Design. The Gene Keys book is just called Gene Keys by Richard Rudd. Now, it is not a book that you just read cover to cover. That one is a contemplation. If you try to read it cover to cover, you're just going to go crazy, right? Your mind is just going to be lost. It's meant to do one at a time and not necessarily in order from 1 to 64. So it's a deep subject. But Understanding Human Design by Karen Curry is the first book that I ever read on human design. Okay. Yuri also asked, but air is good for fire, Mars, energy, but what way to go? Gemini is dual sign, right or left, up or down. Yeah, for some of you, Mars in Gemini can present a lot of problems because maybe you are profoundly earth energy, right? Down to earth. Maybe you're fixed energy where it's hard for you to make change, to change. Well, Mars in Gemini embraces new ideas, new paths, curiosity, and inspiring new ways of doing things. And there's nothing wrong with that unless, of course, you make the decision incorrectly. And then you find that you are, and there are other things in your human design chart that I could point to that might even exacerbate all of this issue. If you are someone who has gate 29 defined, that is the gate of commitment. That is the gate of saying yes If it's defined, you like to say yes. And that can create a position for you where you're saying yes to everything. And then you're only half-heartedly committed to these things because you don't have enough energy to do everything, right? So we have to be careful with that. So knowing yourself is the key, Yuri, right? That get your chart first, get the book perhaps, and start really doing a deeper dive into what is true for you. All right. And what a mess, Mars in Gemini. What a mess. Well, it's a possibility. Also, because Mercury's ruling planet, Gemini's ruling planet is Mercury, and Mercury is still in Pisces. We may have a sort of slower burn to start with, but in April, I think it's April 14th, Mercury then moves into Aries. That's going to further speed things up, right? Because now the messenger planet is in the sign ruled by Mars, so they will be in each other's signs, right? Mars in Gemini and Mercury in Aries. Mercury rules Gemini, Mars rules Aries. Does that make sense? Mutual, what do they call that? Mutual reception. And that gives both of those power and force. There'll be forces to be reckoned with. And you can burn out, literally. You can burn up, literally, if you're not careful. Right. So we want to make sure that we have, if you need to have a conversation with me about your human design, we can do that. If you need a conversation with me about your astrology chart, we can do that. You can go to my website, living-astrology.com or living-astrology.com. Check out the types of readings there are available where we can take a deep dive for you so that you don't find yourself in the position of having committed to too many things and or finding yourself only half-heartedly committed to the things that are in front of you. You got to find the things that are most important for you, that you are most passionate about, enter into them correctly, and then your energy, like a lotus flower, blooms, opens up, and allows for your full expression of who you are. So that is why we really want to do human design, right? We want to know, how is it that I'm designed to bloom? I love that. Blooming. I think that's how Rosie also refers to human design, right? In the terms of blossoming. So there we have. Good morning, Crystal. I see you out there. That's nice to see you in the morning. She says, yes, let's speed things up, please. I'm feeling like I'm going stir crazy. I felt a bit like that myself with Mars in Taurus. My natal Mars is in Leo, and Leo is action-oriented as well. So for me, when the action is slowed down in Taurus, but yet it felt like there was still so many things to do and so many things to accomplish, but just not quite the easy road to get it done. And that's been a frustration. Again, Mars, frustration. Along with dynamic motion, there's impatience and frustration. Yay for us, right? So, Cheryl, Janet, you're so amazing. Thank you, sweetheart. That is so sweet. I love how you deliver this information. It resonates so well for me, and I thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you very much for saying that to me, and I appreciate that you joined us and that you get value for what I do here. Mimi, great energies coming in for preparing for an annual fiber event. Yes, I feel like I will likely get a boost in getting things done. Yes, you will. Absolutely. And Mimi, I think your sun is in Leo, isn't it? You're a Leo. So more fire energy, and fire and air fan the flames, right? The creative energies, the creative juices flowing. So that might be really good for you. Yuri says, I want to know more about those gates. Thank you. Here's my other opportunity. And, I'm learning something about myself, is that I do not market myself very well and brand myself, all these buzzwords that just drive me crazy. I just want to do what I do, which is this, right? But unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at this, it's part of how I make my living. So in order to help people learn more a little bit faster, I designed a membership that is only $13 a month. And eventually I'm going to be putting out courses on all different types of subjects. Right now I've got the intro to astrology. There's also the 3 keys to unlocking your human design that are already almost ready for full launch. And there are so many other things that I want to go into. And the best place for you to get to that information is going to be through the membership. We already do the membership, What's Up in the Stars webinars monthly. We've already done April's. So those of you who are already members enjoyed the webinar where we talked about what's coming up next month. So those of you already in the know about what next week brings to us, right? The huge change that's upon us as we move into the first week of April. And then there's also a forum included in the membership where one Sunday a month, I go into the forum, you bring your chart, your gene keys, or your human design, and you ask me questions. And we use Zoom, so we can actually put your chart up in front of you, and I can see it and you can see it, and we can discuss how all of that works together to help you. There's also different events. I have a big event, and this is something secret right now. I'm not even going to bring it up because it's only going to go out to the membership at first, about how you carry your light, or how you best express your personal light in the world. That's coming up here very soon. Probably, I might be able, no, I won't be able to do it next week. It'll probably be the third week in April. So for those of you already in the membership, or for those of you who choose to join, be looking for a webinar coming up on how to share your light, your personal path to share your light. Let's see, any other questions? Do you give a combo human design? Yes, I do, actually. Thank you for asking, Lynn. A human design combo astrology reading. I do offer that. It is an intense reading. So let me just warn you right now, a human design astrology combo reading is intense, and it often takes 2 readings, right? 2 sessions with me, because there is so much that we go through. You're not paying for 2 of them. You pay for one. A combo reading is $225, and we go through your human design, and then we go through and apply what you've learned about yourself there to your astrology chart by looking also at the transits, the big things coming up for you personally as time goes on here. Usually about a 3-month transit. If you go too far out, you kind of forget about it. But there are some major things. This is, if you guys tuned in last night to Ascension and Astrology, the show that's on Thursday afternoons, we were really talking about how get the energy of joy down in your life now, because 2019 is a bridge year to what comes next, and 2020 is going to be huge. And right now, 2019 looks to be the most uncomfortable of the years in terms of our having to face, the last vestiges of anything that you have to change within yourself is usually the most difficult. It's like the closer you get to the end of something, the more work it seems that there is to do, right? And in our evolution of consciousness right now, we are getting to this point where, it seems like we're speeding up, and the things are coming at us one after another for us to transmute, to transform, and to let go of. And so the more intense that gets, the more we feel like, we're being dumped on, or that there's so much that we are still working on. Now, some of you aren't going to feel that. You've been working on it a lot. But I would bet you if you're in your 30s or 40s, you're probably feeling this drumbeat. And it is getting deeper. It is getting powerful, and it's getting more strong. If you're headed toward your age 50 mark, you're aiming at your Chiron return. And that is very powerful indeed. So some of you are over that 50-year mark, and you're the ones that are mostly toward the end of that transit, and toward the end of I don't want to say you're at the end of it, because suddenly things can come up for you that you didn't ever expect. Trust me when I say that's a distinct possibility. But it's not, you have the skills after about age 50 to 52, right? That's when you've got your wisdom chops. And you're still a lifelong learner, but things are not as intense as they might be if you're 30s, 40s, and the very early 50s. So reach out if you need help going through this. Let me know. I would be happy to schedule a reading for you. Or join the membership and learn things as the content comes out for you to keep learning more and more about yourself. All right. Thank you for bringing that up, Miss Lynn. Rebecca Miroslova Howe. Hi. You're my other Rebecca this morning. I'm hoping that I can get my friendship with Holly back into my life. this coming up energy shift. What do you think? She's a Capricorn. Well, that's difficult to say for sure, right? Because I don't know what the situation is. What caused, if there was a break in your friendship, what caused that? Was it a falling out? Was there a misunderstanding? Was it something, that is, just something small that just you guys went the other directions? It's hard to say. But I would tell you this, with the moon in Capricorn this weekend, why not reach out? Send a text message, send an email, phone call. There's so many different ways that I could, approach that. But without knowing what the situation is, I can't really give you great advice, except there's always the possibility of healing a relationship. Oh, 2019 is definitely uncomfortable. That's from Colleen. It is definitely, but it's uncomfortable, but there's so much potential, right? That it's incredible. The change of Neptune into gate 22, coming out of the gate 63, where we've been in self-doubt and suspicious and, conspiracy theory oriented and all of that. Neptune's energy now takes our focus and puts it in, what is it that we have to do to embody spirit? And if you're going to be if we are, and this is truth, right? We are the embodiment of spirit, then there isn't anything wrong with us, right? We are free to do and be who we want to be loved, to be light, to be compassionate, and all of those things, right? Rebecca, so you had a falling out. So you're going to have to maybe do some work with yourself on that. What was that about, right? What does it mean to you? What have you moved through since the falling out? There's a lot of things to consider here. I don't know Holly. I don't know what her feelings are in all of this, but I can, first heal yourself, right? First, let yourself be free of whatever it is that you've been feeling about this. And if it's something like self-righteousness, if it's something like I was right, she was wrong, you're going to have to deal with that energy as well, right? Because it takes two to have an argument or a falling out. So you can't be all right. So you're going to have to deal with whatever it is that your feelings are in all of this. What emotions are you holding around this? You're going to have to look at the grudge that you may be feeling, the emotions that you're feeling. What's up here? What does your mind keep telling you mentally about what has happened between you? So you got to heal you first. And then hopefully Holly's been doing the work on herself. And then just pray for an opening for you and Holly to come back together and see what happens. All right. So without, again, knowing the specifics, but I would tread carefully, right? It doesn't help you to bridge that gap if you haven't dealt with what your part in all of it was. So deal with that first. All right. Diana says, what about 70 years old? Well, wonderful 70 years old, right? You've been there. You've done that. If there's something left to do, do it. Get out there. There's nothing big happening astrologically that hasn't already gone on in your life, with the exception of Uranus that will eventually be in return for you, but not until age 84. So right now, live your life and have fun and play, deal with whatever comes up, right? There isn't major anything for you to do except stay in grace and play, have fun. You've earned the time that it takes now for you to play. And I know at age 70, there are other concerns. There are health challenges that pop up. And you'll need to deal with that if they do. But don't forget, your DNA is changing just like everybody else's. It doesn't matter if you're 20, if you're 5, if you're 70, if you're 90, your DNA is also being expanded with light and in being upgraded, if you will, to be able to even self-heal. So much potential coming up for us as we evolve here on this planet. Vanita, it doesn't always take two for a falling out. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Even if somebody's ditched you or fallen out on you for some reason, you have to look at what that means for you, because they're in the mirror, right? You're not in a vacuum, nor is that other person in a vacuum. So you've got to be able to look at what it means for you. What part did you play in this? If you're not willing to look there, then you're not honoring this journey, right? You have to look there. You have to be willing to be transparent. Look right through to the heart of it. What part did you play? And even if your part was only that you were holding space for this person to express whatever they were expressing, you still had a part to play in it. So what we want to avoid is the blame game. What we want to avoid is the victimization. Oh, woe is me, right? That person did that to me. I wasn't to blame. I didn't have any part in it, but oh, I was the victim of it. We want to avoid that victim, and we want to avoid blaming, right? Either way, it's victimization. Either you're packaging it up and you're throwing it out there so that you don't have to hold on to it, or you're looking at it through, what did I do? What am I the victim? I'm the martyr, or I'm the victim, maybe, right? I'm the one that's suffering because you walked out on me, or whatever it is, right? You changed the rules and suddenly, demanded more of me than I could give. And so it's all you and it isn't me. So we are all responsible for everything that goes on. Setting boundaries. Okay, so I'm not sure what you mean by setting boundaries, Vanita, but in the case of boundaries, what's yours is yours, what's theirs is theirs. You don't have to deal with their response or what they did. You only have to deal with you, right? Deal with you, bring it home, be clean, be, willing to go where you need to go to be clean yourself. But you got to be honest there. It doesn't do you any good if you go into it just saying, I'm fine. I didn't do anything. Because somewhere you created that for a learning lesson for some reason. And don't use it as a way to beat you up either. It's not about that. It's just about looking in and seeing why did I create this? What did I learn from this? What am I learning? What lesson will I take from here and move on forward with? Okay. And maybe it is about boundaries. Maybe in this situation that you're thinking about, there weren't healthy boundaries. And if that's the case, there's your lesson. How could I set better boundaries moving forward? But you have to release what hold that situation had on you or that person had on you, because otherwise you're still holding on to that victim energy or that energy of blame. So lots of things there that we can unpack. All right, my friends, it is 9 a.m. I have taken enough of your time today. Thank you so much for joining me. I love seeing new people out there. I welcome you to interact with everybody. You'll find the group is really, really kind of friendly and they love communicating with one another. See you all Monday morning where we'll take a look at the week ahead and have a great weekend. All right, bye for now.